Good morning, it's Barbara. Our gizmo thinks it's going to rain today, but Bobby Martrich, our weather guy, says otherwise. So we will believe Bobby. It is partly cloudy and not very hot, not very cold, so we'll be good today, I think. Good morning, it's Barbara. Thank you for joining me for coffee. So, yesterday we survived. It was a good news, bad news situation. The good news is Dennis got the generator working. We were so relieved. And it was a good thing because the bad news is we needed it. But he got it working in the morning. And so that was a big relief. It was a big relief. And, you know, so we did our things during the day. Hold on. Oops, that took a little longer than I expected, so I'm not sure exactly what my wording was or where I was going with it. But we puttered around in the afternoon. It was raining. We didn't even take the dogs for a walk. That didn't work out. And I did some stitching. Oh, I did some stitching. I'll go get it in a minute. And then about 7 o'clock, the power went out. I mean, it started as it normally does. It goes out for a little while and then comes back on for a little while and then out and then, you know, and blips and whatever. It kept trying and then it was out at 7. Aura had come down early-ish in the day, and so she had gone up at 6:30, which is early for her to go up, but maybe she had a show she wanted to watch. So she was upstairs when the power went out, and Dennis, you know, wanted to make sure she's okay. She brought her a lantern or whatever, and then he went out and fired up the generator. Now, when we had to have major electrical work on our house done about 15 years ago, a little more. And our electric was upgraded. And at that time, we ended up putting a side panel, and I think I've told you this before, but put up a side panel on our electrical panel, and that was connected to the input from the generator. So when we run the generator, we plug it into our house grid, and it will power everything that's on this side panel. These have circuits that mirror circuits in our house, regular house. But we had to pick what was important to us when, you know, and what could possibly be done on the generator, because the generator only gives out so much electrical output. And, you know, so we can't run our stove. We can't run our heating system. You know, those things are not possible to run on the generator. So we had to sit and pick, what are we going to put on the, you know, to be run by the generator? When the power goes out, what are we going to really need and want to have, depending on the time of the year? And so when we did that, we have our microwave, of course, the refrigerator and all the freezers, those kinds of things. But we only had a limited number of circuits that we could use. And so, oh yeah, the pump, the water. So the things that we did not put on that was any electricity to the guest rooms and any electricity to my craft room. Now, Aura's little apartment upstairs is a former guest room and my former craft room. So even when we're on a generator is where I'm going with this. Poor Aura is in the dark. There is no electricity going to either of her rooms, so she doesn't, even have a light. So we went up and we gave her some night lights. Her bathroom I don't think is even lit, although her water works in her bathroom. So she's up there in the dark, but her elevator chair has a battery, and we have that attached to a to an outlet that is on the generator. So once we got the generator going and got everything up, I went upstairs to tell her to come on down with us because we have lights, you know, and we're sitting here, and she was already in bed. She's like, no, I'm just going to, 7:30. I'm just going to be in here. I'm just going to go to bed. I don't want to come down. I'm like, okay, good. You know, that's fine. So anyway, but we have things powered, like we can't power the heating system, but we can power the fan for the fireplace, so we can have a fire and that kind of thing. So I forget exactly what I was saying, but so the fan on the fireplace heats the house, and which of course doesn't heat the upstairs particularly well, but we really are just trying to make sure our pipes don't burst. We can be warm. And the dogs don't care, for sure. And we have overhead fans in the kitchen and in our bedroom, and they are what we have that we can run in the summertime to try to help mitigate the heat, the, you know, summer weather. So anyway, poor Aura was up in the dark, but she went to bed. And the power was out till 11:30, so it was 4.5, 5 hours without power. So we had a fire in the fireplace, and we were, you know, reading our phones. Of course, you know, one of the first things, the water was the first thing that went into this panel. The computers were probably second. So we were on the internet. We didn't have any trouble. Dennis had to rig up the phone because the power outlet that our phone base is on is not on the generator, so he just had to run a cord. Anyway, you don't need all the details and particulars, but we were perfectly comfortable. Aura was in bed, but we don't have the TVs, no TVs on the generator, because our, you know, systems just take up too much power. So I read, Dennis read, so we sat companionably in the living room with the fire, and it was very nice. And Aura would have enjoyed it too if she had come down. Of course, she would have been working on her crossword puzzles or her word search. But she went to bed, and she got up a little early today. She was already up by the time we got up to give her coffee and stuff. So all was well here. But I did realize this morning that I was very anxious about this coming storm. And you might have noticed that I was very scattery yesterday. I was just all over the place. And I was trying to figure out why. And we would have been perfectly fine without the generator for those 5 hours, although it's very hit and miss in our area of how long an outage was going to be. It could be 5 days. It has been 5 days. It wasn't likely to be that long last night because there wasn't any snow or ice to bring down lots of power lines and stuff. You know, it was windy and the trees, branches and whatever. But anyway, so it wasn't likely to be super long. And we would have been fine without the generator for those 5 hours. But I realized that this morning I was trying to figure out why I was so anxious. And I realized that having Aura here and, you know, being responsible for her health and safety felt like it added sort of a layer of urgency and, you know, pressure to make sure that we kept her safe. So, you know, it was kind of a relief to figure that out this morning. Cause like, why was I so anxious? And I think that's probably it. You know, she counts on us, and we need to make sure that she's safe. So, but she was cuddled in her bed and perfectly content. The power came back on at 11:30, and so her light in her room lit up because it was all, you know, the lamp hadn't been turned off. And, you know, so I went up to check to make sure that, her room wasn't waking her up. And she was already sitting up. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm here to turn off your light. She said, oh, I've got it now. I got to go to the bathroom anyway. What the heck? So I made sure that her night lights were on and everything was set up for her so she could be comfortable in her thing. Anyway. So the good news and the bad news is everything, Dennis got the generator working, which made such a difference to, you know, everything. And, but we did lose power as it turned out. And, you know, and every 5 minutes we're discovering, oh, this is one more thing that need to be turned on or should be reset. You know, like when the power goes out, like everything resets to 0 or whatever. You know, it's not just clocks in this house. We've got computer things that have to be fixed. We got coffee makers, 2 coffee makers that need to be fixed. We got refrigerators that need to be reset their temperature. I mean, it's just like a whole litany of things. We should have a checklist, a power outage checklist. Anyway, we are all fine. It is not going to rain today. It's looking like an okay day. So the dogs will get their walk today and I'll get my walk today and that'll be good. Oh, but I want to show you my dragon. Before Aura went up yesterday, we were sitting and listening to music and I worked on my dragon. Ta-da! Not ta-da, because I'm not showing you. I worked on my dragon. There we go. I decided, and I was, you know, puttering along on my dragon. I'll show you the picture. This is going to be the finished one. And so I'm up here. This is the beginning of January. So I've done 8 days. How's that for catching up? I've done 8 days. But it occurred to me while I was looking at that it doesn't look very dragony in my stitching. So I decide, oops, upside down. So I decided that I was going to put the dragon eyes in since they are not a day. I hope they're not a day. They're not a day because they're black. I decided I was going to put the dragon eyes in because then as I'm going along, it'll be a dragon in my mind. It'll really start to feel like a dragon. So you can see I had 2 days in a row here the same, 2 days in a row here the same. Oh, these weren't 2 days in a row, but they're next to each other on the dragon, and they were both the same temperature. So this is going to be interesting. We're getting up to the 50s and down to the 20s next week. So my colors are going to start going a little wacky. But anyway, look what I did. I'm so excited. So here's my dragon forehead. This is the jewel in the crown and jewel in the forehead of the dragon. But I started the eyes and I think that was a good idea. So it's going to feel like a dragon every day that I stitch on it. Anyway, I'm really loving this pattern. This is the temperature dragon. I will edit this and so you can find Christy's floss tube below and she has an Etsy shop. If you're interested in temperature stitching. Well, and if you're not dragon people, she's got a lot of them. Bookshelves and birds and all kinds of things. But I'm very excited about my dragon. So, who knows? Maybe I'll actually finish the dragon. It could happen. I've actually finished some cross stitches. I made Rich a cross stitch for Christmas a couple years ago. And his birthday, and Christy did the finishing for me because, you know, I've finished a couple of things, and I only have one. You can't see it because it's on the wall facing this way. That was a shit idea that I finished and put it up. It's in my living room. I don't do much. I don't display much in the way of stitching stuff, but I don't know what I'm going to do with my dragon. We shall see. We shall see. It feels like it could just be like attached, be the ornament decoration on a plain canvas bag. It would be beautiful on the front of that, and that would be something I would use, and something I could have more of because, you know, the idea of temperature things is to do more than 1 year using the same color schemes, and then you can see the differences in the years, right? That's kind of part of it, right? Anyway. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But I do hope that I finish it. And I do like the idea of having the dragon eyes done so that it reads dragon the whole year. So I'm happy about that. Anyway, so that's the crafting I did yesterday. And then the power went out and we fussed around. You know, it takes half an hour, 45 minutes to get things set up. Dennis does most of it. I don't want to, you know, steal his glory. But yeah, so we were set up and then we had a fire because the furnace was out. So there was no reason not to have a fire and, to try to keep the temperature up, and it worked. And yeah, so at least we could sit there and relax and be calm and read our books and our phones and such. And our house phone ended up working. So we were not in any way isolated. It was pouring rain though, and we have water in the basement, unfortunately, but not as much as we could have or we have had in the past. So I do feel like we're starting to make a difference, but we have a whole list of things that need to be done around the house, including digging a trench outside that wall of the house to try to help drain. And so we have outdoor things to do and indoor things to do. One of these days, I'm going to find myself a heavy-duty handyman. Not just one guy, you know, but somebody who has a little bit of a, I don't know what kind of a company that is. Because we don't want to do renovations, but we have a lot of things that could use some expertise and, yeah, equipment. But that's for another day. Meanwhile, all is well here. We are all happy and content, feeling better, and everything came through except for a little water in the basement, and all is well here. So thank you for your good wishes. I got lots of fingers crossed, and I appreciate it, and it worked. Good job. Thank you. Meanwhile, I'm going to go and put this up, but I'll edit it so that you can find a link to Christy's floss tube downstairs in the down bar. And it'll link to her, and then her video links to her Etsy shop if you have any interest in that dragon or any other temperatured stitching. But I'm very excited. I might work. Well, I have one more day I could do because now I can figure out what yesterday's high was, and I can work on my eyes. I think having those eyes in there is going to make all the difference. Please take good care of yourselves. Please, please. I hope you who are on the East Coast and in all that inundation all survived well. Please take care of yourselves. Stay safe and stay sane.